Thank you very much. Let me greet the program director and thank the vice president of the SRC for those wonderful words and introduction. I saw the leadership of the EFF in the province. The chairperson is here, the secretary is here, members of the provincial command team, commissars who are deployed in the Eastern Cape are also here. Let me greet all the progressive forces that are here, including the leadership of the students and those who came to speak before me, because I managed to see Bongani. I don't know if there are still many others I've noticed. Bongani, when he left Action SA, I asked him to join the EFF, and he thought he was so popular to an extent that he will pull it alone, that he was going to be an independent candidate. Later he formed a party, Shuluva and Shem. He doesn't even have a single seat. So if he had come to the EFF, he will be a member of parliament by now, because as an individual, he possesses the necessary qualities of leadership. And he's one of the very few young Africans who ran a municipality for the whole term without any problems from Auditor General. Every audit was clean audit because he led from the front. We really appreciate you, brother. Let me take this opportunity to really humble myself by appreciating those who invited me here to Rhodes University. Cecil John Rhodes University, named after the most brutal colonizer, the most racist and imperialist, who would not have wanted you who are seated here to be here today, because he hated everything else that looked like us and treated us like slaves and animals. And we are shocked that we still, 30 years after democracy, have institutions like this one, where it's supposed to be a stage for intellectual contestation, still being called after the most brutal individuals who have made our life pain and misery. Grahamstown has changed the name to Makhanda. Why can't this university change a name for a better name? Today, we have a topic to speak about good governance and security in Africa, and generally about leadership. But one of the people who went through, who has been a part of this institution, is Steve Biko. Steve Biko, who came to advance during those NUSA's days the argument of why certain white liberals cannot determine our destination, argued that point from this Rhodes University. And when you've got a figure like that, not only associated with the struggles of the students at that time, but equally having an association with this part of our country, the Eastern Cape, what hesitates you from changing this university from your Rhodes to Steve Biko University? Fighters, we are invited to come and speak about good governance and security in Africa. But to be honest, there will never be a discussion about the security and good governance in Africa without acknowledging the damage that has been caused by colonizers and the imperialist forces. Africa's inability to be peace with herself, it is necessitated by the fact that colonialists want to exploit our minerals without being held accountable. It is the colonialists who are corrupting the leadership of Africa and making sure that those who are not corrupt are replaced by the corrupt puppets who will allow colonialism to continue in the African continent. Any battle you can imagine anywhere in the continent, it has got everything else to do with those who colonized us before. Today, they want to choose who are the leaders for African people. As we stand here today, Gaddafi should be an enemy of our people, according to the declaration of the Western imperialism. Because Gaddafi stood for our people. Today, Mugabe, who was a darling, if you think Mandela was loved, you must revisit your history and check when Mugabe was becoming the president of Zimbabwe after the defeat of Rhodesia. He was the most celebrated man. He was loved by everybody until he started questioning the issue of the land, that the land must be transferred from the colonizer to the people of Zimbabwe. But when he was not advocating for that, especially after the Lancaster resolution, they thought he's one such a gentleman who will allow them to do as they wish, until he realized that he was going to pass on without transferring the means of production into the hands of our people. Today, every African leader who served for a very long time in Africa, we are told is a fascist, is undemocratic. This person is a dictator. But such words were never said about Queen Elizabeth, who ruled for more than 50 years. And it's not just monarchy, like a Zulu monarchy or Abatembu monarchy. It's a monarchy that has got powers on the political systems of Britain. There is no any prime minister in Britain who can proceed with anything else politically without the go-ahead of the Queen, now the King. No one of those prime ministers can declare a war. Only the Queen or the King can declare a war. But that person has never been democratically elected. That person has got no term of office. They serve until the grave, and they are not called fascists and dictators. They do so with our leaders because they want to impose on us the imperialist bourgeois democracy. That democracy is when you go for 5 years and you are done. But as young people who are engaged in this space, you have a duty to ask yourself, how did we govern ourselves in the earlier primitive society before the arrival of the colonialists? And we're not asking here of an ancient history. Very recent, you'll realize that we were able to govern ourselves without being dictated to by the white people in terms of how we must govern ourselves. Today, we must be told that a good governance is a governance that complies with IMF or World Bank. Anything else outside that, even if your people are benefiting, you are not a good leader. Actually, you are a dictator. Let's go back to Gaddafi himself before he was killed by imperialist forces. Gaddafi nationalized the oil industry when he took over Libya. And he made sure that the people of Libya receive free health care and housing. The people of Libya actually used to get a piece of land for getting married. That's why many of you will remain single, because you realize there's going to be a problem here. I'm going to marry someone, and where are we going to stay? As a way of appreciating the young ones who are beginning to establish the family unit, Gaddafi used to thank them with a piece of land. Today, Gaddafi is an enemy because he stood against apartheid and associated with all African countries that were fighting against colonialism. Gaddafi is an enemy today because he stood with the people of Palestine. Immediately when Gaddafi died, we saw Africans being taken by force in Libya as slaves, even post-colonial period. After Gaddafi died, Libya, which we're told it was under dictatorship and the most brutal man, has never known peace. It is under the group of warlords. It is under the group of terrorists, under the militia, and the people who are forcing themselves into power through a barrel of a gun. Today, one of the most unstable countries is DRC. Lumumba did not serve too long, because when Lumumba came in, they realized that this guy is going to create independence in the DRC, where the most strategic minerals are found. Since the passing of Lumumba till to date, DRC has never known peace. They will never know peace because those who are exploiting the resources of that area are the ones who are sponsoring the rebels in that area. They don't want authorities in DRC, because authorities will mean that we must also control the airspace of Libya. And when you control the airspace, you know which plane came in to do what and went out at what time. They are sponsoring rebels, doing land strips in the forests, where they land and take the minerals undetected and leave DRC. Today, DRC was supposed to be one of the most richest countries, but the imperialist forces will not allow it to be. So, Sankara was killed. And when you think Sankara was killed by his friend, that one was just the one who pulled the trigger. But there are brains behind that man who pulled the trigger, who, by the way, was a friend of Sankara. Burkina Faso would have been one of the most beautiful countries in Africa had Sankara lived long. The man who said to his people, here is the land, you must produce for the government and produce for yourself. Sankara, who loved education. Sankara, who gave our people health care. Sankara, who knew that there will never be total liberation of people if women are not liberated themselves. Sankara, who knew that a political activist must be equipped with theory of politics, because a soldier with a gun without political theory is a potential criminal. That's why political education is always important. Sankara, who said, I'm not going to be part of borrowing money from IMF and the World Bank. So these leaders, I'm singling some of them out because I want to demonstrate to you that those who seeked good for us did not stay long. If you come to South Africa, Chris Sani's crime was not because he killed anyone, was not because he was mobilizing anyone. Chris was just speaking his mind. Not because he went to mobilize the people of Alexandra, not because he went to mobilize the people of Eastern Cape against what the negotiations was talking about. He just said, this is not what we went into the bush for. If we are going to take it through a barrel of a pen and we don't fight, then you must know we'll never realize that which we went to the bush for. And they realized that this man cannot be persuaded, not even by money. And they did not waste time. They finished him off. Because when we were negotiating for our democracy and thinking it's a peaceful transition from resistance to democracy, we actually found our leaders negotiating deals. instead of negotiating for democracy. You need to go and do a research and ask yourself, when did the Vodafone deal come into South Africa? Vodafone. There were no cell phones. Vodafone was not here. Vodafone was negotiating with the apartheid regime just before the negotiations for democracy started. When the negotiators realized that, amongst other things, these people are talking about a wireless phone which is coming to South Africa, they stopped the negotiations and went to Vodafone. Or you are talking to wrong people. We are going to take over after these people. Come this side, and even if you insist on that deal with those people, when we come in, we are going to cancel that deal. Go and check out who were the black people who were part of a deal of Vodafone, what you call Vodacom today. And you must ask, once you know their names, then go and check what was their role in the negotiations. Then you will have an answer why we are where we are. They didn't have to kill them. They just have to corrupt them and give them the necessary resource to undermine the African struggle. Fighters, you just ask yourself, who is Patrice Motsepe? Because many of you think that Patrice Motsepe is someone who was so bright and so brave and made business mind and then made money. No, Patrice Motsepe was in the ANC legal team during the negotiations. And Patrice Motsepe is a lawyer by profession. He's not a mining engineer. That's how he landed at the negotiation. He was the back office to interpret the legal implications of what these people are engaging about. In the process of interpreting, realize or there are issues beyond the legal, which is minerals. And then that's how he ended on the other side. It's not because he was clever and therefore he just made up, ideas about mining. So, like today, we are in a government in Africa called Government of National Unity, which is a lie. Because it can't be a government of national unity if it doesn't involve everyone. Mandela's government of national unity involved everyone. That's why he called it Government of National Unity. And Mandela did not do it because he did not have numbers. Mandela won the elections, but said, even if I've won, I need everybody to come together to build the country. Not because I need you for you to vote for me to be the president. So this has got nothing close to what Mandela did in 1994. Mandela's GNU was a genuine GNU. This one is a grand coalition of the DA and the ANC. And it is not an ANC initiative. Because you think it's the ANC that came with that. No. The DA came with what we called moonshot. The moonshot was an attempt to get all parties that are sponsored by the Oppenheimers and everybody else to come together and get 50% plus and then isolate the ANC, EFF and everybody else who represent the African agenda. That was their idea. When they failed to get 51%, they abandoned Herman Mashaba without saying goodbye. and went to ask the ANC the same they asked of others. When they could not achieve it through other people, they left those people and said, no man, when I come here, we can win this thing together. We don't need anyone. But the ANC during elections never formed a moonshot. Never said after elections, I will have all these parties working together. It's the DA that said that. But after election, there are people who are working together. Why does it start after the elections? It started before the elections. When the DA said moonshot could not arrive at the moon. They had to find something else. And then, like they say, They went to the president, and the president said, this is a very brilliant idea, but don't talk about it. I will go and coin it as government of national unity to have a buy-in of the ANC. So that the ANC people can believe in this thing. I can't call it ANC-DA coalition. We'll call it government of national unity. That's why the ANC people are defending something they know nothing about. But what was the idea? Idea was the same as Lumumba, Gaddafi, and everybody else. There must never be Africans in power without white supervision. And that's why the white supervisors had to come. The ANC allowed itself to perpetuate the interest of the imperialist forces and colonizers by going into bed with the colonizers. Now the ANC has got an interesting argument. It says, but you EFF can't say we can't go with the DA. You went with the DA in 2016. We say that's a problem of being led by illiterate people who can't define what is a coalition. A coalition is an agreement between the two parties or beyond who agree to work based on certain principles. There is no such an agreement with the EFF or DA or anyone anywhere. We have never gone into coalition with the DA. We voted with the DA to oust the ANC in the metros. Why? The ANC was becoming arrogant and more arrogant. And we said, we'll vote against you and you won't believe it. They thought we were joking and we did it. If they say to you, the EFF had an agreement with the DA, now they are saying to us, we can't have an agreement with the DA. Just ask a simple question. Show us that signature of Mbalula and Helen Zille. Show us with the EFF. Where is that signature? Why do you call it the same thing when the other one doesn't have a signature and this one has got a signature? What is the role of the signature? It is binding on all parties to execute that which they've agreed on. We never had such, and they are using us to continue with the wrong agenda. Fighters, Eastern Cape is a province of legends, fearless men and women. And I believe seated here, we will be able to produce African leaders who will follow in the footsteps of Nelson Mandela, of O.R. Tambo, of Chris Hani, of Winnie Mandela, because we believe that these leaders of the SRC are actually in a university of leadership. Because O.R. Tambo himself was a president of the SRC at Fort Hare. And from the SRC position, he became a statesman without occupying any government official. O.R. Tambo used to be given platforms at the UN and many other platforms where they are only designed for people who are leading government institution or government itself. So we believe that the leadership of the students must not be fearful. Because when you are fearful, you allow management to play games with you. You have nothing to lose. You are still young. By virtue of being young, you've got a license to make mistakes. Your nature has given you permission to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. If I was a member of the Youth League, I would be very ashamed of the leadership of the ANC Youth League today. That speaks like it's a veterans league. Because all of this critical thinking which is being provided, it was supposed to come from the ANC Youth League. If anything, the ANC Youth League is now singing for posts. Fighters, you are too young to be correct. You have to learn, and you learn from your mistakes. You cannot want to be perfect and want to look like you are VC. You are not a VC. You are just an ordinary SRC president. Stop pretending to be a VC. You need to lead by example. When you are a leader of the students, and this we must put in the SRC constitution, and this we must put in the student command constitution, that for you to lead or occupy a certain position, we must require the results, last term results, as to how did you perform. Because SRC and leadership should be given to people who are intelligent. Remember, we are now taking you out of your mainstream. You are not here to be SRC. You are here to learn. Imagine if we give you something else and you are struggling like Malema, you won't cope this side. One of the two is going to fail. So only the intelligent ones will have the capacity to multitask. They will be able to do academic work. They will be able to do SRC work. SRC must never be a platform for non-thinkers and for people who want to access the resources of the university in the name of the students when they don't genuinely represent the students. So lead by example, by passing, by how you dress, by how you articulate your positions. It's going to be important that you start practicing those things, because from here, you are going straight into communities. From here, when you graduate, being a teacher, being a doctor, being a scientist, you think you do that only for your family. It's not for your family. It's for the whole village. And when the village celebrate you, they don't even make noise and say, hey, what? No. Every person who visits that village who doesn't know you, because they are so proud of you, even when your house is not the most colorful one. But there by the doctor there's a doctor in that house. You turn right by the doctor there. They are giving someone direction who's lost in the village, but they are using your credentials because the whole village is so proud of you. Why is this village so proud of me when I'm just an individual? Because we're told that amongst us, no one like you will come from amongst us. That's why today we celebrate every little achievement by an African child. We ought to love one another, because from amongst us, there was nothing that was going to come. We were going to die in the sea, chained by colonizers as slaves. I speak to you now. There are many African bodies that are still trapped under the sea. They are fighting. The soul has not rested. Imagine dying, being chained. You can't even fight, even when you know I will not survive. But you ought to fight a little bit. Die knowing I tried my level best. Bodies under the sea, which wanted to be what you are, and were told nothing will come from you. Today, you look at a fellow African, you listen to a pronunciation of a fellow African, you listen to the name and the surname of a fellow African, and by that you isolate them. You look at them and say, these are not South Africans. These are Nigerians. This can be Miss South Africa. This can be that. Marfelyoun can be a player of rugby, South Africa, and get celebrated. No one will dare to question, where does this surname of Felyoun come from? Because we've been made to celebrate that which looks down at us. Anything that looks like you, you hate. Anything that sounds different from you, you hate. You know, comrades, the concept makwerekwere comes from the tribalists who could not hear the other ones. When you speak, the tribalists, they say they don't hear you, but because they can't hear your language. When you speak, they hear. So you can't use that. You can't use that to want to rule out individuals. Comrades, we are hated everywhere else in the world. Everywhere else where black people are found. It doesn't matter their accent. They can speak the best English they want to speak, best accent. As long as the color of their skin looks like mine, they will be isolated. You get isolated to a point where even when you go to China, a young person who has never been exposed to a black person, when they see you, they start trying to clean you. But it looks like you are dirty. Because that's how we are being looked at. So where do we get the privilege with so much hate happening against us? Where do we get the privilege to hate on each other? If the unity of Africa is not important, why are they fighting against it so much? If it was this useless thing that has got no meaning, why is there such a big fight? They know that the only way they could conquer Africa, they had to divide it. They divided Africa. They gave it to all types of countries to manage. Our coming together is a threat to Europe. It's a threat to America. Our coming together, it means one currency backed by our mineral resources. And that currency will be against the dollar. And it will be more powerful than the dollar. Our coming together means one parliament, which means there will never be pockets of dictators who take over governments in Africa through a barrel of a gun. Why? There is one body which makes laws for the whole of African continent. There are no separate laws. There is one president for the whole of Africa. There is one military command in the whole of Africa. When they say they are rebels at the border of Rwanda and DRC, we call on the African command to go and make peace at that part of Africa without asking for the UN to come and help us. The unity of Africa will mean that there will never be a company called PRASA which will die. Because PRASA will be extended to the whole African continent. We'll make sure we build railway lanes and deliver our people everywhere. Why should ESCOM struggle when there are lots of parts in the Eastern Cape, South Africa, and all over Africa without electricity? ESCOM can give electricity to all of these people. And where do they buy it from? From ESCOM. Who owns ESCOM? It's us. We don't want, we want borders. Hey, why do you want borders? We don't want to sell electricity there. And then come back and say we are unemployed. The higher demand, the more jobs we are going to create for this economy. ESCOM can, if you don't want to go into the whole of Africa, you can give the whole of Southern Africa, which was colonized by one person, Cecil John Rhodes. He managed the whole SADC alone. Why are we failing to manage the whole SADC ourselves? Not through colonialism, by providing services to them, by allowing free movements of goods and persons, and by allowing one African passport. People say, Malema says, borderless Africa. He wants people without documents. How can he want people without documents when he's got documents himself? Because it's supposed to start with me. If we are in a struggle for not having documents, we must do like Mandela did and go and ban these IDs. One continental passport means that we must all be documented, and there must be an African system on where do we find each other. You can't commit crime here and run to Swaziland. We will find you because we've got an integrated system of Africa. So fighters, we have a duty to educate these people who hear the message, by the way, but still want to behave like they don't hear us. Why? Because the division of our continent benefit the imperialist forces. So we want to say to our comrades here, please, let's continue to advocate for the unity of Africans and for academic excellence. We must not be inspired by criminals and want to steal masters like the Premier of Eastern Cape stole a master's in Fort Hare University. We don't want academic dishonesty. You must go to school and don't be like these people who are leading us now. You are going to go to jail when you are old. You must ask, when you think crime pays, you are going to be arrested when you are powerless and old. So quick you can be rich now, but long term all of that will be reversed within a day. So let's work hard because we want to command the economy of South Africa with skilled people. We want to nationalize the banks, we want to nationalize the mines, we want to run strategic industries in the economy with skilled African people. We don't need white supervisors. We need skilled Africans for us to run a successful economy. We need you to go and revive Dinel, which used to be one of the most strategic companies owned by South Africa. Today, it has collapsed because of corruption. We must fight crime. Everywhere else, crime raises its ugly head, must be dealt with. Mkhwanazi, the commissioner of police in KZN, that is the man for the job. Criminals do not hear theory. That's why they ran away from school. So they hear the other methods, which is what Mkhwanazi is applying. So let's make sure that we fight crime and we fight GBV. Because we cannot be a society that is known for beating up women. We cannot be a society known for beating up children. We cannot be a society that is known for being a capital of rape in the whole of the world. Fighters, this university has to be safe. A girl child must walk here at any time without feeling threatened. We need to invest in the security of this campus. And if any company comes here and it doesn't want to look after our children, we must fight very hard to insource our security guards and hire capable security guards who are not going to be driven by profit, but by the security of a girl child. When we say a girl child must be safe, then you know automatically a boy child is safe. Because it is only the girl child who's under threat as we speak now. Fighters, we are happy that this corrupt ANC government has listened to us and cut that middleman of NSFAS is now going to pay directly the money into the universities. That is not enough. We want NSFAS not to exist anymore. Money must come straight here, and then money must come straight to your pocket. If you are a beneficiary, you ought to receive the money in your pocket. These allowances of students must be received directly by students in their own pockets. Why? Because beneficiaries of SASSA have got SASSA card. They don't receive it via. They are given directly the money. Why are you giving the student via? Fighters, We also want you to make sure that in this university, president of the SRC, where the students stay, there is free Wi-Fi. Not only in the lecture room, not only in the assembly points of students. Where we stay, we do research even at night, because research doesn't sleep. And we do it much better at night. So why is there no facility at night to do research? So it can be a modern day university where we pride ourselves to exist during the 4IR, but we're still learning the same way our parents were learning when they were here. There ought to be something that shows that indeed these are young people of a new generation. Fighters, even the residences that are outside the university, they must be approved. No student must go and stay in a place where not even a white hobo will go and stay in that place. The SRC, leave the VC and them. If you care about these students, because during election you tell us to organize taxis to go and fetch them in those residences. So it means you know where they stay. You ought to go and do door to door, not only during SRC elections, during normal days, to go and check the living conditions of those students outside the university. Outside the university, inside the university, the living conditions of our students must be like those of white children. Anything that white child can accept, we refuse it twice. We must not accept that. Fighters, this place, Makanda, is so corrupt. It's waiting for you. This place is known for pothole. There is even a place named Pothole in honor of potholes. So, if you want to know, if you want to see a statue of potholes, you have to come here. So you must know that the problems of society are your problems, because you are members of society before you become members of the student community. You have to stand up and join the struggles of our communities to restore Grahamstown to its former glory. The ANC, everywhere else it goes, it mess up everything. We didn't say they must build a road. At least you found this road. Can you just maintain it and leave it the way it is? They don't do that. They dig holes on it. So we, the students and the young people who are intelligent, who are graduates, we are a threat to mediocrity. We are a threat to the corrupt. We are a threat to non-thinkers. That's why they will never do good to you, because they know more educated people produced, it's more threat to the ANC. The ANC loves them illiterate. The ANC loves them ignorant. That's why they will not give you free education. An educated mind is an educated vote. That's why this VD belongs to the EFF. Why? The EFF is the only organization that makes sense. For you to appeal to students, you must make sense. Just ask yourself, what is the sense of the ANC? Like, what is the rationale behind? Even themselves, they will not tell you what is the sense behind them. They will tell you, we fought for you. That is the sense. We liberated you. Even the young ones from the Youth League, currently, we fought for you. Hey, you are a child when I fought for you. Fought for you. So, comrades, let's make sure that here we protect all these candidates of the student command and let's make sure that we always rally behind what makes sense. The EFF is the only thing happening in South Africa now that makes sense. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Ave atatazela, asena luvalote, oya vavona veze tatazela, oya vavona ve balega. Abaya tatazela, asenalo, chu. Oya mbonu Rhodes tatazela, ayuya tatazela, abaya tataze, asenalo valote, oya mbona oya tatazela, Rhodes uya tatazela, abaya tataze. Asenalo valo amandla away two down with Cecil John Rhodes down with Cecil John Rhodes down forward to Steve Biko University forward to Steve Biko University forward. We must tell the Vice Chancellor that if they don't change the name themselves, we are going to take it off and put the name of Steve Biko. We are changing the name of Rhodes University ourselves. Amanda! Two! Thank you very much, students. we want to give you an opportunity to ask questions. So please allow the program director, it's not our program, but please let's respect the program director so that we can give you an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Can you please settle down? Can you please be silent? I think the most important thing that I have to do is to acknowledge the speech given by the CIC. And also, CIC, I just also want to reassure you that this is where leaders learn. The students that you see here are also ready for deployment. So if you want leaders in the EFF, capable leaders, this is where leaders learn. Thank you so much. I saw that when the CIC was touching on the point of JNU, the comrade of the ANC almost ran away this side. Where is he? Thank you so much. Also, I saw when the CIC was speaking on the issue of borders, Mr. Ofe was happy that is safe. Thank you so much. On the point of us moving away from the West, this is a point that was also made by Mr. Baloyi. So clearly there's a need for us as the youth to move away from the West. The only way we can achieve good governance and security in Africa is if we move away from the West. But we should not sit back. The same way we are singing Asinalu Valu. Even when it comes to elections, we should go out like this, SRC elections, and these numbers, and go and vote. Because we should not sit back, but lead and mobilize these numbers. As the CIC has indicated that these qualifications are not for our own personal gains. This is a sentiment that is also expressed by our Vice Chancellor almost all the time, that all these qualifications are not for our own personal gains, but we should go out there and build capable societies and capable government. So please always know that this is for all of us, even the people that did not have the opportunity to be admitted at an institution like this. On the issue of a master's degree, guys, for those of us who are in that space, we know that it's very difficult. So I don't blame the premier of... Getting a master's is not a joke. It's not a joke. It's very difficult. But at the end of the day, we should not be silent about these issues. We should question them. We should debate about them. Because it also puts the credibility of the qualifications that we're getting into question. So please, let's not be silent. So now we're going to have 2 rounds of hands. I will take the first 3 questions. The first hand is here, and the second hand is there, and the third hand is here. So I'll start with you, Ntika.
Travel and Julius. Kadi 16 December 2022, Neleleko Moleji, and you were speaking to Hoshi Khabumolot. And it seemed as if you were embracing the idea of traditional leaders, which is something that you mentioned here, that prior to colonialism, there were monarchies that were self-sufficient. So I'm trying to understand that in the post-colonial era, where you seem to be adopting Pan-Africanist ideologies, how do you reconcile issues of people that want to live according to custom versus people that want to live in according to like statutes or laws? Because even there where you were speaking to Hoshi Khabumoloto, there are people that want to live in accordance with Sejo and culture. But at the same time, there's the problem of holding kings like him accountable in cases where they enrich themselves. So on a practical level, how do you go about reconciling people that want to live in accordance with custom versus people that want to live in accordance with the more modern and Western laws? Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the CIC. Your address was, very informative about, the Pan-African spirit. I think it also touched on the SRC and how, we should be available to the student body, not just during elections, but throughout, our term of office. So my question pertains to representation in good governance on the African continent. So now you touched on one of my favorite African scholars, Thomas Sankara. And Thomas Sankara has a quote that goes, women hold up the other half of the sky, and true revolution or true emancipation from the West is found in women's liberation as well, right? Yes. So now my question is about representation of African women in African governance structures. And I think I've seen it, not even out there in textbooks or anything, but even in my own life, as the only woman who's running for SRC president. Yes. Thank you. Okay, just to wrap up my question, right? How do we get involvement and representation of women in these formal governance structures, and not just for the sake of representation? So in the Rwandan case where, we have 50% of women that hold up the position of parliamentarians, but when you actually see, the work that they do on the ground, their voices are silenced even within the parliament setting. So how do we ensure that when women do take up leadership positions, that we do respect, their roles as leaders, and how do we involve women, not even in formal governance structures, but day to day in terms of leadership? Thank you.
Okay, good evening. So my question for Mr. CIC is that during your speech, you encouraged the youth to challenge the large and problematic institutions that are harming our nation, and you also emphasized the importance of completing our academics. So my question for you is, what advice do you have for those students when the academic institutions they're involved in threaten them from being unable to complete their studies in order for them to stand up for their communities? What is your advice to those students?
Thank you, guys. Let's just give him an opportunity to respond. CIC.
Thank you very much. I think the traditional leadership constitutes the core of who we are. And even in the earlier primitive society, historical materialism teaches you that these people were organized in such a way that there will always be weekly meetings where matters are being attended to which affect the communities. And then from there, after listening to the cases, they will then attend to governance issues when the commoners are not there and cases are being dealt with. The high leadership from that royalty will then sit to look at matters that affect governance. And where the king or the queen misbehaves, they were able to hold them accountable. One of the things that we sometimes over-exaggerate the power of the kings to an extent that we think they are untouchable. But how can an untouchable person be told who is going to marry? You just wake up one morning, but no, Nyala Musadi was Chab. And then that's the woman who's going to give birth to a person who's going to succeed you. And that time you are the most powerful, feared person. And community has got no control over you. But they bring someone that you have never imagined in your life, but that's it. It's like in a situation where the king dies and there are no children to succeed the king. They go and marry a woman who must come and give birth to the king. And this woman must also come from the royal family. But the problem is that for her to make a child, she will have to sleep with one of those guys. When you look at them as a woman, yes, this one is disfigured, this one does not have teeth, you are trying to penal beat them, but the structure is such that you don't have a choice. You ought to listen to the collective wisdom of the royalty. So there's always been mechanisms from amongst ourselves, including these things of land. It is not true that we went to stay somewhere and then there will be a king there. It's not true. Our people survived through movement. Our people have never been in one place, and that's why I don't agree with this thing that people are foreigners and all of that. If you want to follow your family tree, you are likely to find yourself in DRC. So, our people were always moving, and they were moving seasonally. So when they move, they always made sure the land they occupy, that land is good for grazing. That land has got water. Because these people survived through three things. They survived through hunting. They survived through gathering. Gathering means when it is season for mabilo, we put together the guava, we gram guava and put the guavas together. We always gathered things to know that the dry season is going to come. Then the third one was fishing. That's why they wanted the water. So fishing is not that thing that we are being denied to do in the Western Cape, which looks sophisticated in a big sea and all of that. No. There used to be fish in every river. That's why we needed water for fishing, but we needed water for animals as well. So that our animals, because we're also moving with these animals. If I have cattle, I move with it. So we used to call it hunter-gatherer fisher. So hunting, gathering, fishing. When we arrive there, if there is a king or a chief who has already occupied that territory, there will be signs, and will always report our presence. And our reporting of the presence does not dictate that the chief or the king has got a right to give us a permission. They just have a right to know that there are people here who have now occupied this particular space. So that's why I don't want to enter in the stories of Shag, where now we got involved in too many other things, which is not how we got ourselves organized before that. So there is discipline, there is accountability, there is leadership, even on how we were organized before the arrival of the colonialists. But we don't live during those times. We have to modernize. It can't be, no, people were wearing skins who must wear skin. You wait alone. We are now. Those things of skin, I'm not part of those things. Yeah, it's a choice. No one must. For instance, Bongani is wearing the skin on the head. But in the current setup, someone can say you can't enter with that thing. Not in this thing. No one must deny you that. You must live and dress in a manner that reflects you. And you must dress the best you know how. And you must dress the way you want to be dressed. But you must not forget where we come from. When we say, let's go back to our customs and traditions, we don't mean we must walk without shoes. We must still hunt the same way the old ones were hunting. No. We are hunting differently. It's called hustling now. It's no longer hunting, but we are doing the same thing. We still wake up to go hunt and feed our families because we modernize. African women have always been leadership. And no one is doing them a favor when you say women must lead. No one must even try to impress women about leadership. That's why we had Queen Mujaji. Queen Mujaji, the reign queen. So to show you that when we say let's go back to who we are, someone is going to, some person who suffers from patriarchy is going to say, our olden days does not allow women to lead. Okay, Mujaji, where does he come from? Where does she come from? Because she led even before these things that you are talking about. So, the African leadership embraces women leadership. And no one must never in our name isolate women, because you will never win that struggle. You can say whatever you want to say. Sometimes just put your books aside and observe when we do the campaign. Or who's doing door to door and like? Who's doing the cooking? Who's coordinating these buses? Who's compiling the stats and sending the stats? Who's asking for posters? It's women who are at the center even now of what is happening in politics now. You may want to undermine their role and look down at them, but you know that that which is being sold by women is the most attractive thing. You want the revolution to succeed, you must allow women to lead it. Imagine me and Bongani, we come. Vuyani, Sitle, Sam Matthias, in a kumbi like this. We are going to Mthat. The usual stuff of Eastern Cape, hiking, you are hiking. And then the kumbi stops. When you open the door, it's just my door, Danjin. They are looking at you. That time you want a lift. You know, I made a mistake here. Hey. But if you find the same amount of women in a kumbi, things are proper. You know, fine. There's no problem. Because when it's led by women, it's attractive. It means it's easily associated with. It means it represents genuine things. And that's why to be led by a woman is a privilege. Our house, the EFF building, EFF is the only political party in South Africa that owns its own head office. It's named after Winnie Mandela. It's named after Winnie Mandela. Why? We want Winnie Mandela to multiply. They wanted to suppress that voice. And we went to fetch it from the grave. And that voice is speaking right at the city center of Johannesburg. Whether they like it or not, that woman's voice still speaks, because they never wanted to hear that voice. We're still forcing that voice on them, because they thought during her death they've defeated her. But we're demonstrating in action that you will never defeat what Winnie Mandela stood for. Fighters, when you get excluded academically because you are a political activist, you must not be scared. That is an honor. You must wear with pride. Let me teach you. You think that all of these political activists were given roses when they were leading in the universities? They were not given roses. You think those women who came here topless fighting for feast must fall here at Rhodes, they didn't come here to play. A revolution is not a bed of roses. It's very difficult. Or else go and join the SCO and then go and sing hymn songs there and then leave it. Or go and join netball or something. Here, you are talking about academic exclusion. Joining the struggle at that time meant death. It meant prison, whether you are a student or not. Today they want to silence you. They want to use you to silence politics. You know you are in the right. You know you are fighting for principle. You must never compromise. This country has got laws. There is no VC who's going to wake up one morning and exclude people on the basis of feelings. But do not be scared that you are going to be targeted academically. We are not in the academic space. We're in the political space. You wake up every day with horrible stories against you. You wake up every day, you have not won elections. You have not won elections. Huh? And we know the game we are fighting, but these kids of ours don't know what we are fighting. There is a 7-year-old of mine who says to me, hey, I've got stress. Care, what is the problem? They are laughing me at school. Why? They say you lost elections. So, you think you've got stress, there is a problem here. But we're not going to retreat. It doesn't matter how they ridicule us, how they want to exclude us, how they caricature us. You must look at the kind of cartoons they draw of us. That thing of drawing cartoons is not just that those people can't draw. They can draw you perfectly well. That Rasta can produce you perfectly well if he wants. But he specializes with making sure he caricature people. But do you know yourself? Because if you know yourself and you know you're academically good, it doesn't matter who disagrees with your political stance. You are good at what you are doing. And you are not going to allow them to use academics to suppress a political view. They must come for you politically and defeat you politically. Do not be scared. Because once you get scared, the agenda to liberate African children is completely undermined. It might be a delay in your academic progress. But you must know one day, generations to come are going to reap the fruits of what you are doing now. So that's what we need to know. And that's what, so when you are going to be the SRC president and you are not going to be a sweetheart of the management, you must know you are going to be victimized. Yeah, you are going to be victimized. Sometimes they are going to deny you, marks. It's like these lecturers who sleep with kids in exchange for marks. So then you must ask me a question. What must we do? Because if you don't sleep with them, they don't give you marks. You must never allow that unprincipled position because you want marks. I will rather die on this chair. But I'm not going to allow this lecture to rape me in the name of marks. Because to promise a child marks in exchange for sex, it's a rape on its own. So a principle remains a principle. It doesn't matter the consequences. That's why Mandela said, I'm prepared to die. It was not an opportunistic statement. It was a statement of intent. Because why did Mandela say that statement, by the way? Mandela was in the consultation room with George Bizos and all the best lawyers he could get. They told Mandela, guilty, you are now going to plead. Please ask for forgiveness, everything. Mandela said, the day I say that, this thing we're arrested for is going to die here. It's going to finish with me. I'm not going to say that. They argued for too long. Ultimately, they left him to go and say what he wanted to say. That's when he went in there and said, because they told him there's no lesser sentence, they were right. The sentence was death. He knew he was going to die. He was not making a joke or a populist statement. He knew that we are gone. It's done. So I'm not going to die on my knees. I'm going to die with my boots on. That's why he said, I'm prepared to die. You must be that Nelson Mandela that we still benefit from. You are critiquing of Nelson Mandela and say, no, he was a sellout. Mandela never wanted to be praised. He said, society on its own will decide how they want to view me. But I've played my role. Nothing should ever stop you from critiquing Nelson Mandela, from critiquing all of us, because we are not messiahs. We are human beings who will commit mistake. 27 years in jail. Bafita no, there's a possibility of going out, but we have to negotiate. There's no way. You have to stand up. Hey, who wants to talk now? We can show each other. Some of you here can't even take 10 days. 10 days. You'll sell out the whole SRC. The whole SRC gone. A man spent 27 years. When we are excited, we say, he sold out, he sold out. It's not, doesn't mean anything. Mandela is a hero we all want to become. Mandela negotiated up to here, fought up to here. It is our generation which must pick up the spear and continue the fight. Thank you.
Okay, we are going to the last round of questions. Just 3 hands. One here. One there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. My name is Mo Sinde. I'm the Senior Communications Officer. You touched me on my Sankara studio like Tiso, but in reference to the direct quote that a soldier without any political or ideological training becomes a potential criminal. And during Bheki Cele's tenure, he publicly declared that the SAPS, about 81% of them, visible policing, did not attend the mandatory GBV training that they're supposed to, which means that the first point of contact with victims is already compromised, so we cannot trust the legal system. I want to know what the EFF's plan regarding that is, because I feel like you are in the best position to answer that. Thank you.
Economic freedom in our lifetime. Economic freedom in our lifetime. Thanks, Chair. That's a generational mission, CIC. You must educate fighters on this matter. That essentially we are fighting for economic freedom in our lifetime. And that is a generational mission that the ANC Youth League and yourself as economic freedom fighters have been fighting for. So really we must send appreciation to you, former president of the Youth League. You left us a blueprint as a principal leader of the National Democratic Revolution. But nonetheless, Comrade President, I wanted to touch on the matter of GNU, Government of National Unit. It's self-explanatory, President. On this matter of GNU, and we know that the leadership of the African National Congress had embarked on inviting comrades, parties across the political spectrum to say, let us constitute a national government. Of course, the economic freedom fighters declined to form part of the government of national unity. Now, I want to check what influenced that. Is it a strategic retreat from yourself to say we would rather be opposition because we are more effective in opposition, etc. Just the thinking politically on that matter. Let me try again the economic freedom to see if fighters have caught it. Economic freedom! They don't have it. Thanks.
Guys, please don't go in and out for the purposes of security, please. Let's just wait for the session to end, and then we'll all go out, please. Okay.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to ask. My question is kind of simple. I just want to understand how we would imagine at a regional and continental level the issue of security, considering the fact that you've mentioned the DRC and other countries that are met with insecurities. So how... And part of the issue at a continental level is the idea that leaders don't want to commit and they don't have the political will to put together their resources. So I just want then to ask, how do we create institutional vibrancy within the AU that particularly deals with security issues? So that we can realize this notion that you speak of, CIC, of power without white supervision. Thank you.
Firstly, I would like to say sorry, but thank you so much for the opportunity. Thanks. My question is related to Africa and China relations, right? Mr. Malema, what in your view does the strategic relationship that Cyril Ramaphosa speaks about mean for security and good governance in Africa, especially with Africa losing many graduates to, specifically South Africa losing many graduates to China? There have been many scholars that have called it a new form of colonialism and a scramble of Africa of sorts. What, in your view, does this mean for security and governance again in Africa? Second, okay. My second question is, what, in your view, should we be doing more of in Congo, and what would you critique about what we've been doing already? And then also, continue, go on. I promise this is the last time. And then the last question by Teki Butise is about, you spoke about NSFAS, right? With regards to NSFAS, already when you say we're going to get money into our pockets, already with that, it already creates problems with us having to pay RES and all of that, and RES is still fundamentally expensive. So even though we have a NSFAS issue, our fundamental issue is how expensive university is. So...
Okay, all right. Good evening. I would like to formally greet you, Mr. Malema, and express how extremely excited I am to meet you. My name is Rimbo Meamwa. I am from Rugare, Harare, Zimbabwe. I am from a country in South Africa that is ruled with civil rights violations. And I think in order for us to actually deal with that issue, we have to deal with the civil rights violations that are ongoing continent-wide. And I would like to come forward and ask you a few questions. I have two questions, and the first question is a two-part question. How can African countries effectively address terrorism and violent extremism, such as Rwanda and Congo? And the second part of that question would be, can we then state that liberalism is not a viable system for the continent of Africa, as institutions such as African Union are not taking steps to help with countries such as Congo and Rwanda, but we take efforts to help international countries such as Israel. My second question would be relating to how Africa can be seen as a continent that is made up of countries that can be referred to as a post-conflict countries. My question is then, How can African countries strengthen their institutions and promote accountability to promote and good governance after a history of such violence and imperialism? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the recognition, Chair. Hi, sir. I'm just coming to. I'm coming to. Okay, this is. It's a much shorter question. I'm coming to you as someone who identifies as a white female leader in a black-led environment, and I was just wondering if you could clarify the whole sort of, what did I say? The sort of like the supervision. Is there no space for white people to work with black people as equals instead of black people feeling like they're supervised just because we are white? Because I feel like there is so much room for people to be equal in the space of leadership.
Thank you for the questions.
Thank you very much. I think the first thing will be to say that we need to really take serious the issue of gender-based violence. And one of the things that we need to accept is that we exist in a patriarchal society where men are educated in a particular way. And therefore, we must engage in a process of learning to unlearn how certain things are done. And the same goes to all institutions. It's not only police. It also goes to the presiding officers in the courts, where a magistrate or a law practitioner or any other person asking questions that makes it very impossible for a victim to express themselves in a manner that they will be able to build up a case. Because the courts and police stations are built with the intimidating image. So when you enter a court building, even when you have not done anything, you're not a witness, you're not anything, by just entering, you're so scared, or you, this thing looks different. So they must know that even before you open your mouth, you are very scared. And make it so possible for you to relax, to feel at home, to feel comfortable, to feel protected, such that you are able to express yourself and tell the court or the policeman, whoever is taking the matters into consideration, your side of the story. So we need to transform all of that. And if Begitele says police have not gone when they were supposed to go, once you say it's a compulsory training, it means everybody must go, and if you don't go, it's punishable. And the force exists through discipline. You cannot be a police officer in the absence of discipline. You cannot be a soldier without being a disciplined soldier. So once you are told the orders are clear, you have to attend. So it's a very important parliamentary question which ought to be followed up. If there was such a compulsory instruction, and why were those police not forced to attend, and those who did not attend, what kind of actions were taken against them? Because we have a system where everybody must be held accountable. We refuse to go to the GNU because we can't go into a GNU with DA and Freedom Front Plus. W. Lewis, who killed Chrisan, was the best friend of the current leader of the Freedom Front Plus, who's a minister of correctional service. Groenewald, till today, there is no proper explanation as to why Chris was killed. Just he was unruly and all of that, and then they killed him. But we know the system doesn't work like that. The people who perpetuated apartheid and killed our people during apartheid are not held accountable. 30 years into democracy, many bodies are still to be accounted for. As in when they feel bored, we are told that Hoshimampuru, they go and exhume a person from a shallow grave, and this is possibly so and so. It's a by the way activity which we have to take very serious and cannot align with the people who are responsible for these things, and they are not being held accountable. We are being asked to sing Distem by DA and Freedom Front Plus. And when we say we don't want to sing Distem, people think that we don't want Afrikaans. It's not true. We never said we don't want to sing in Afrikaans. We said we don't want Distem. Distem is a song. It's not Afrikaans. That song was sang during apartheid. In Flag Plus, when they were torturing our people, not even in the cells, they created shacks in Flag Plus where they torture you without being processed by any law enforcement. Then decide to create a braai outside the shack. Drink beer, clip drift and coke. Under torture, you hear the smell of braai. As you are still being tortured by that, you know them, when they get drunk, that's what they do all the time. They sing this stem. You are half duoed in that shack. People are singing this stem. And then once the so-called democracy comes, you are told to sing that song which brings back bad memories. Why are the Jewish people not being told to sing the song that Hitler was singing? Just try it one day, you won't live for 2 days. Take a platform and say those Jewish people are going to sing the Hitler song from now onwards. It will never happen. We sing the song that was sang when Solomon Matlangu was being hanged. And they say apartheid flag is offensive. It must not be shown all over. It belongs to the museum. But you cannot separate apartheid flag from apartheid national anthem. What is the purpose of the song? The purpose of the song is to salute the flag. That song was introduced to salute the apartheid flag. So the two go together. But no. You are being racist. You are being unreasonable. You must accept this. We want a multilingual national anthem. That's enough. That's fair enough. We've got a lot of writers, including here at Rhodes, who can write a nice melody in Afrikaans, which reflects our democratic dispensation, and give it to us. And we take that, we reintegrate it in our national anthem, we replace this step, but still sing in Afrikaans, if that is what our intention is. By the way, the national anthem is not a constitutional requirement. It's the president who decides the national anthem. The same way he decides cabinet. That guy can decide. That guy can decide what is the national anthem tomorrow. But obviously, in a democratic South Africa, we want to subject that to some consultations, blah, blah, blah. But the national anthem is the responsibility of the president. It's not a big issue. It's an issue that can be resolved by the president, but there's no political will from the president. So we refuse to be part of a co-option by the DA. I explained to you that the DA said moonshot. When the moonshot failed, it went to mobilize the ANC, but the agenda is still the same, to achieve the objective of the moonshot. Ourselves, Mkhonto Wesizwe, ANC, combined were 75% of the votes. We can change this constitution. Helen Zille says, we took a conscious decision that there will never be ANC, EFF, Mkhonto Wesizwe alliance. It will never happen. Why? They know that that alliance is going to bring meaningful changes, not some lip service. They know that when we say we'll expropriate land without compensation, they will say it's unconstitutional. We amend the constitution to make it constitutional and then expropriate the land. They know what we are capable of. And the ANC lies through its teeth that we made unreasonable demands. But no journalist cared to ask them, what were those unreasonable demands the EFF made? King in Trelungur EFF asked for, which the DA did not ask for. What is it that made you and the EFF to fight so much that you don't even want to see one another? Because anyway, MK, ANC, EFF is the same family. We come from the same things. There is nothing I'm saying today which Nelson Mandela did not say, by the way. Everything that we are saying, it is in the Freedom Charter. So when you say the EFF demanded unreasonable thing, just tell us one thing which they asked for which is outside the Freedom Charter. What is it? This illiterate Mbalula will never tell you what is the story about the whole thing. He has got no idea. He just says, no, they are unreasonable. Now they are telling us that there are black parties. What about black parties? The ANC has declared itself a non-racial organization long before it went into alliance with the DA. But when you ask them, why are you working with the DA? They say, we want a non-racial GNU. So we said to them, oh, all along without the DA were you being racial? Because it looks like you are now being non-racial when there is DA. The non-racialism of the ANC, including the non-racialism of the National Democratic Revolution, requires no validation of the DA. It has always been without the DA. And this distortion must never be accepted. So, when people have sold out, they will say all kinds of things they want to say. But it's not true. We have never made unreasonable demand. One of the unreasonable demands we made in 2016 was that Zuma must resign as a president before we give the ANC our votes. They refused. In this year negotiations, we said, we are not even asking for your president to resign. If you don't want to go into a government with us, we are prepared as the EFF to sit outside government, but vote for a minority government. Which is what we are doing in Gauteng, by the way. The ANC in Gauteng refused to go with the DA. As a result, they've got 36%. From time to time, for them to pass anything, they come to the EFF and MK and say, these are the issues we negotiate, we vote for them. The ANC said no to DA. They passed their budget. What stopped Ramaphosa? The ANC in Gauteng does that with 36%. Ramaphosa has got 40%. What stops him from constituting a minority government? Wes, Mapantiti are prepared to give him their percentage. Olomisa is prepared to give him a percentage. PAC is prepared. So it's even beyond 40%. With all those as convicts, criminals, that's how disparate they are. They even go and take criminals into government. Now the criminals are embarrassing them because they don't know anything about governance. So Cyril can govern this country, doesn't need the DA, he doesn't need the Freedom Front Plus. But because he is sold out, he can never go on without those people. We don't want NSFAS. That's why we fight for free, decolonized education. So when we say to you, NSFAS, this NSFAS, we're talking about contemporary interventions that are being made. But that's not us. Our manifesto is very clear. Education must be free, irrespective of your background, whether white or black, whether rich or poor. We have nothing to do with your family background. Here at Rhodes, as to who your mother is, it's none of their business. As to who your father is, it's none of their business. All they need to know is whether you've got the brain to be in this university. And the only method to use is to get the result, metric result. Look at that and say, hey, you come here. Not go and do affidavit that your mother is not waiting for you to come here. Affidavit for what? You don't know your own kids, but you are the ones who are releasing metric results every year. You've got a list of these kids. That's why you even give them to the newspapers. Why can't you give them, all of them, to the university? When she arrives, she presents a result, they punch her ID. She's in the system already. All over South Africa, we must have one centralized registration, so that we are not told, hi, this is University of Pretoria, it's for white Afrikaners, and without pronouncing it, they don't say it. But by their actions, you can see that these ones want to perpetuate whiteness. And we ought to take those powers away and then centralize the registration and make you to write there your preference. If the space is still available and you qualify, let's take you to where you want to go. These universities do not belong to provinces or anyone else. They are national assets. They belong to South Africa. That's why you can find all kinds of people. There is no longer, even in Transkei, during Transkei time, you'll still find a person from outside Transkei in the university. These are national assets. So why are they not being managed centrally and distribute the kids to all the universities and TVET colleges they want to learn at, free of charge? No one must pay. And you know, rich people, they boost their ego by donating. Yeah, that's why they always want to be taking cameras, videos, donating. You know the rich are still going to donate. If there is a child in this university who comes from a rich family, I can tell you without fail, their parents are going to come here saying they are donating to the university. The rich will always find a way to make a contribution. But let education not be sold like fat cakes. There must be a difference between fat cakes and education. Education is not a commodity, it's a right, which is right in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. You know, Zimbabweans have got themselves to blame. They can go anywhere and say what they want to say. They are part of us, they are part of Africa. But the problem of Zimbabwe can only be solved by the people of Zimbabwe. We can only give them support and solidarity support. But the Zimbabwean youth must stand up. This thing of just being scared of old men who can't even walk, and you are scared of them instead of engaging in a rebellion against those people. The civil rights movement is being suppressed in Zimbabwe. But equally, the votes are being stolen daylight. Chamisa has won elections there many times. Anyone, you can go to them there, they tell you, this guy has won. But who runs the elections? The army. They go into the villages, in the voting stations in the villages, they do as they wish, and no one is being held accountable. We don't agree with the sanctions against Zimbabwe, because sanctions only serve to make the poor of the poorest suffer. When you sanction, the political elite has got access to resources. It can always import anything they want to import, and they will continue with their lives. But the poor of the poorest are going to die. That's why we call for the lifting of sanctions in Zimbabwe. But the youth of Zimbabwe must stand up. There is no Malema who's going to come from here and go and liberate Harare. Harare has to stand up for Malema to go there and say, I'm now putting my body on the picket lines in support of the people of Zimbabwe. The Zimbabwean youth must rise, because that nonsense will never come to an end as long as there is no unity of purpose against the tyranny, against the suppression of political wishes of Zimbabweans. So, ourselves at Pan-African Parliament, at the AU, at SADC, we have to have a political will to speak for the people of Zimbabwe. When it comes from us, it will have more weight than when it comes from Europe. Why? Because we're brothers and sisters. They will know it's a friendly fire. But SADC, AU, South Africa, they are failing Zimbabweans because it's a bruskap. It's friendship. It's brother, leader, brother. When they meet, brother. And then when you ask what is the resolution, no one has taken any resolution. So you need a clear position from SADC which gives the timelines that by this time this should have happened. But otherwise, Mnangagwa is going to come back and he's got nothing to offer at all. So Chiwenga is done. He will not be anything. They used him. Chiwenga is no longer the most powerful military man in Zimbabwe now. They have weakened him. So only the power of the youth of Zimbabwe can change the political status quo. And the Zimbabweans have to know that we are with them. Including Zimbabweans who are here in South Africa. When there are elections, get into buses and go home. Go and fight from there. Because the humiliation that you are being subjected to here in South Africa is if you don't have your own homes. It's high time that you take it upon yourself and organize yourselves. EFF is there. We can even sponsor buses. Ora, go and vote. If you are here to study, you can come back, study, no problem, but go and vote. So that we know that at least you are also doing something. The humiliation and the violation that Zimbabweans are being subjected to, highly educated individuals and human beings, it's not what a human being must be subjected to. But it starts with you as Zimbabweans to fight for the freedom and the self-determination of the people of Zimbabwe. DRC and Rwanda, I can tell you, it's a political will. That's why I said to you, we need one military command, which is commanded centrally. And when that military command intervenes, it doesn't appear weak or one-sided. Let's take South Africa, for instance. It went to intervene there. But those rebels are more equipped than our own soldiers. Our soldiers are at the weakest. If a war is to be declared here in South Africa, let me tell you, you guys are safe because you are in the rural areas. The war normally goes to the city of power. We are going to be wiped off the same time. There won't be 2 days war. That thing of Ukraine won't happen here. The military base got burned by natural fires in the Northern Cape. Those soldiers were trying to extinguish the fire with the branches of the tree. Trying to extinguish the fire. Why? The fire extinguishers in all military bases as we speak now have all expired. Yeah? There is no fire strategy in the military. People died. You can't say yo because it's a recent issue in the Northern Cape where the soldiers could not defend themselves against a natural fire. It was not started by another country against them. Imagine if it was started by another country. They couldn't. They couldn't. In DRC, if I'm not wrong, there are 2 helicopters which have been grounded in our military base, not because they are not working. There are no pilots. They can't fly. That's why they are hit like useless. The way we are so useless, we get hit at our base. In the military language, when you fight and you hear, let's retreat to the base, you know you are retreating to a safe place. But once they go to your base, you're the weakest. These people that are dying in DRC from South Africa are not dying in the battlefield. They go to the base. We can't even secure our own base. He must bring them back. Otherwise, more people are going to die there. He needs to bring them back. And then we invest in the best training, especially of the task force. Because we're thinking we're fighting people from DRC or we're fighting people from Rwanda, only to find that we're actually fighting French forces. Highly trained French forces, because they are rebels, they've got no identity. You think they are from here. Imperialist forces are there. Actually, are the ones who are fighting those battles. And rebels have got a history of hiring these askaris, the best in the other countries, to come and fight those battles there. So, South Africa is not ready. If you doubt that South Africa is not ready for the war, look at the Minister of Defense in South Africa. Fighters. So, let me tell you, when you say men are trash, when you say men are trash, I'm so unaffected. I don't even care. I don't hear that. I mean, you're not talking about me. You are talking about trash men. When you say men rape, you're not talking about me. You're talking about rapists. When you say whites are racist, why are you touched in your studio if you are not a racist? Because we are not talking about you. If you are not a white supervisor, why do you want to tell us that you are not a white supervisor? We will know that. We will know that. No one has ever said white people have got no place in South Africa. We refuse white supervision. And they do it unwittingly, some of them, because they've been taught to think they are superior. It's some of them is in their DNA. He just finds herself or himself dominating you on subjects he knows nothing about, because they think their skin color permit them to dominate you. Never feel apologetic about white people who say, but why do you say we're racist? I'm not racist. I'm not talking about you. But you need to know, my sister, everything in this country is race. Everything, our problems in this country were started by race. Kamu. Yeah. Kamu kaka. Yeah. Everything, yeah. When they came in 1652, they did not conquer the land. They conquered us, pushed us away from our own land. When they discovered the minerals, they removed us from potential ownership of the means of production. And they even legalized that by race, not by class. They never used the class to divide us. They used the race. So don't start with the issue of the race. When we speak as black people about how we despise racism, white liberals must keep quiet and listen to us. That's a problem Steve Biko had with these white liberals. When NUSAS had a conference here, they were sleeping in nice places and black people were sleeping in bad places, yet they claimed to be in the same organization. Why didn't those white liberals go and sleep with their comrades at the bad sleeping arrangement if they were indeed part of our struggle? So, until we've resolved the racial question, any other issue will never be resolved. Now that's my relationship with white people. When they walk in, I'm like, the war is starting now. Let me understand. When they speak, I listen twice. And once they want to do those things of white supremacists, I tell them, don't start with those things. Don't even try. So every racist everywhere, where they raise their ugly head, they must be confronted. We must teach them to unlearn racism. The same way we are saying we are unlearning to become good people and not patriarchal men, they must also learn not to be racist. And they must accept. When you stand up here as women and start saying, you men, what? I'm not going to stand up and say, but what are you saying, man? Why are you painting us? I must hear your cry. This is a battle cry you are making. I must hear it. And I don't have to tell you I'm part of it. Through my own action, you should appreciate that there are men who are still good amongst these trash people. And that's what the white liberals must do. They ought to listen to our battle cry without seeking to remind us all the time that they are good. If they are good, we'll not know it by their mouth, we'll know it by their deeds. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Kensa Shnene. Now I'm going to call upon the former Vice President of the SRC, Paul Kopedi, to come and give the vote of thanks. Inkom.
Yamaz ukoman, ukoman. Yamaz ukoman, ukoman. Yamaz ukoman, ukoman. Yamaz ukoman, ukoman. Nathi phezulu. Awu nahlala phansi indaba. Amandla. Amandla. Qina mfundi qina. Qina mfundi qina. Thank you very much to the program director. I'll just say all protocol observed due to the time, and I can see that it is a school night. So I'll try to keep it short as a miniskirt, covering all of the important parts. The CIC spoke about issues that I think are very much prominent within our student body, in particular Rhodes University. Issues of student leadership apathy, and so forth. We are under election, and we know that voting commences tomorrow. So we're asking that, in as much as the CIC has spoken, we listen, and when we vote accordingly. In terms of the international relations, Rhodes University, it is the university that has the highest number of international students. So in as much as we expect them to know of our local issues, it is very much that we allow ourselves to learn about what is happening abroad and also try to apply it here to become a better country. The leadership of the ANC spoke that we are going to have economic freedom within our lifetime. We are. It is time. You must take it upon yourself and you must continue to vote. CIC, we want to say as Rhodes University students, we thank you very much for honoring our invite. Also to your team, I see also the President of Student Command, Sitle Loans is here, people from National, and also other SRCs that basically came here.
However, I want to take this opportunity to also thank the Student Command, Rhodes University Student Command, under the capable leadership of Hlumelo Fitboy, for ensuring Amanda, for ensuring that Ward 12 is won. Fighters, comrades, students, I thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, let's not. Thank you. Please don't open the doors as of yet. Let's wait for the CIC to also go out first. Thank you so much. Enko. Please remain seated.
You can sing, guys, whilst the SRC takes a quick picture with the president. SRC, very quickly. Won't have time to do it outside because president must go. Cannabis Fire Brigade. Hayumli Lolo. Cannabis Fire Brigade. Hayumli Lolo. Oh yeah, nabandana bam. Oh yeah, nezinganeza. Oh yeah, nabandwana ba. Oh yeah,